David Zonka here from the blog naturalengineered.com. Today we're going to talk about calf soreness, muscle soreness, foot pain, everything that comes with learning how to run barefoot for the first time. It's probably the biggest search topic that draws people to my blog for barefoot running topics. Because people are just wrecking themselves out there and they're not sure what's going on. And it's not really that hard to imagine that this happens because there's some things underlying there that people just aren't familiar with, and I'm going to try and clear some of that up today. We've got three really big topics here that are going to cover where these problems come from. The first is going to be muscular conditioning. The second is going to be biomechanics, or your running stride, how you're running. And the last one is going to be training habits. If you screw up one of those, you're probably going to experience some soreness, hurt yourself some way. If you mess up all three, it could be disastrous. So I really want to cover this and make sure people think about these things, when they approach barefoot running or minimalist running in general. So the first part of this I want to talk about is going to be your calf muscles and your tendons and all those tissues in your leg and your feet. So if you've been wearing shoes your whole life, you may not realize this, but your body is actually somewhat different from somebody who hasn't worn shoes. When shoes are on your feet, they kind of encase the foot and they keep your body from having to use all your muscles and tendons the same way you would if you didn't have them on. There is some research that showed that there's dozens and dozens of muscles and tendons that interact with the feet and the leg and the knees when running, when walking. And when you're wearing shoes, you only need a fraction of these. The shoes do some of the work for you, shock absorbing, and just keeping your feet from going through its normal range of motion. So that's something you really need to take into account here. And especially the fact that if you have shoes on your feet most of your life, especially if they have like an inch or an inch and a half between your heel and the ground, well, your calf muscles and your Achilles tendon, they just don't have to be as long. They're going to be substantially shorter to that same amount than what they would need to be if you weren't wearing shoes at all. And that's going to come into play if you all of a sudden kick the shoes off and start running around barefoot. Your muscles aren't ready for that. The calf muscles, they aren't prepared to stretch as far as they would be to get that full range of motion. Same as your Achilles tendon. Your Achilles tendon, it's like the largest rubber band in your body. It's used for storing energy and returning that energy through stride. If it's not long enough, there's going to be some stress there and it's going to hurt. It's going to take time to grow. So that's the first thing, muscles being prepared. The second thing you need to take into account is the types of muscles that are being used depending on your type of running form. Now, for people who are wearing shoes, the most common running form is going to be the heel strike. Most people, that's just how they run. Elite runners, even if they're wearing shoes, probably have really good running form anywhere, probably a mid-striker. But most amateur runners, people who just like go for a jog every other day, just trying to get some exercise, they're probably going to be a heel striker. And the reason this is just because wearing thickly padded shoes almost forces you to do that. You have to try a lot harder to make sure you get a proper landing with shoes on, just because of that material down there. Now, something that comes into play when you're a heel striker is that the way your feet impacts the ground is going to affect the muscles in your leg and how they control your foot angle. So let's look at it this way. When you're walking downstairs, you're walking down a hill, normally you land with your forefoot first in front of you, right? You're feeling out the ground. Now, if you do that for a long time, you're going to feel some stress on your calves. If you're doing a lot of sprinting, you're going to feel stress on your calves because that's a muscle that's contracting when your foot is flexing downward. Now, when your foot is flexing upward, so let's say you're laying on your heel and your toes are pointed up, you're contracting your shin muscle. So that's contracting on the front side of your leg and that's drawing your foot up. If you're always landing on your heel, well, you're going to be putting more stress on your shins. I have never heard of anybody getting shin splints from barefoot running. And in fact, it seems to me a lot of people are curing their shin splints by switching to barefoot or minimalist running. Probably for that effect that's going on there is the shifting of the primary muscle being, contracted there, from the shins to the calf muscle. And if you realize what's happening there, it's not going to be that big of a surprise if you decide to just go barefoot running for 3 miles one day, 5 miles, however long is a long distance for you, and your calf muscles are, well, they just haven't been used as much as they should have been, or needed to have been used while you're wearing shoes. So that's the second big thing, using the calf muscles more. Now, another thing that comes into play is people just straight up running with bad form. You get half of it right if you try and do a forefoot or midfoot strike. Most people seem to realize that that comes into play. If you try and run barefoot and land on your heel, well, it's not going to last more than a few steps. It's going to hurt, and your body will make you stop. But your heel does need to touch the ground at some point. If you don't let your heel touch the ground, your calf muscles are never unloaded. Your Achilles tendon never gets to discharge that potential energy that's stored up from your landing, and you're just going to wear out your legs really fast. When you're sprinting, yeah, you stay on the balls of your feet, but people don't sprint for more than 100 meters or so. That's it. If you try and run like a mile or two staying on the balls of your feet, you're just going to be wrecked. I tried to do it, before I really knew what I was doing and how to do this properly, and I could barely drive home. I mean, I have a stick shift car, so yeah, it was pretty tough. My legs were that tight, and I just kind of ran through it, just kind of bit my lip and just kept going. I thought, well, it's just what's supposed to happen, but no, it's not right at all. So important, let your heel touch the ground, and it doesn't need to slam to the ground. You land with your forefoot and midfoot first, and then your heel just kind of kisses the ground momentarily, very lightly, and back up. You release that energy, you're pushing off and going forward into your next stride. The last thing, and probably the most important, because I think this is where people really have the most trouble, is you need to tone down your training regimen. You may be used to running a 10K like it's nothing, but if you're switching up your running form, running without shoes, using muscles and bones and tendons that have never been stressed like that before, if you just try and do too much too soon, you're going to wreck yourself. The least amount of trouble you could get is some muscle soreness, but some people are getting stress fractures. I had some tendonitis because I was just doing too much. I was trying to prep for a competition, and it's not fun. It's your body basically telling you need to slow down and take your foot off the gas. So remember, just do only as much as you can do until you start to feel a little bit of pain or some soreness, and just back off, get some rest. Don't start running again until it doesn't hurt. If it's hurting again, you need more rest, obviously. Pain is an indication from your body that you're doing something that it's not ready to do yet. All right? So I'm going to reiterate those. We have the first one being calf and tendon shortness just because of wearing shoes. The second one, your calf muscles are being used a lot more than you're used to, so be prepared for that. Your calf muscles are going to be a little sore. The third one is don't just stay on your forefoot. You need to let your heel touch the ground at some point to make this work properly. And lastly, like I said, take it slow. Go back to 0 if you have to, only running a half a mile until you stop, and then gradually increase your mileage until you're getting to a place where you're comfortable. All right? If you have any questions or you want to talk about this some more with me, you can reach me at contact@naturallengineer.com or hit me up at my blog and leave a comment. Hope to hear from you.